Okay, good afternoon. So this video is going to review how I evaluate the written assignments, and this is for all the written assignments. Assignment 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and the final draft. So this document will aid you in writing criteria for evaluating written assignments. Following the points from this rubric will aid in writing a cohesive, informative, and readable essay. The total evaluative score is out of 100%. For example, if all criteria are seen in an essay, this is how I will calculate the essay scores. So if you fulfilled each part, it's like how to use the sources, being able to identify your categories of analysis. And this is how you go through that process, right? These two different ways. And then also paying attention to the elements of writing, like punctuation and whatnot. No, sorry, formatting. This is sorry for formatting. All right, and then this part is on writing mechanics, and I even listed all the punctuation that we use in writing, right? And then lastly, the citations, okay, which adds up to 100%. Okay, all right. So let me go back to the top. All right, so this is what you do when you integrate your ideas, right, into your essay. So what you're going to do is like use a source to frame your topic. This type of integration is where you note the type of argument or thesis the source uses in the author's writing. For example, I use Karl Marx because he tends to be the easiest out of all the people that we read in sociology in terms of his argumentation. So Karl Marx's work focuses on power disparities between the property class versus the propertyless class, where the property class controlled the modes and means of production, which means that the well to do benefit from the economic structure, allowing them to organize society reflecting their interests. The propertyless class must recognize their interests in common with other workers by recognizing that their labor power is undervalued and leads to the impoverishment of the working class. The working class must organize to actualize their collective interests to address class disparities. So this paragraph pretty much summarizes what Karl Marx wrote in the Manifesto of the Communist Party, making the distinctions between these two classes, right? So then this would be like a summary, all right, and then I continued to write where I wrote Karl Marx's thesis is how powerful differentials between two distinct economic and social groups lead to social antagonisms. Social antagonisms come in different forms: the elite and the working class, men and women, white and non-white, and so on and so forth. So even though all right, so this is what I mean. So even though Marx talks about economic disparities and class antagonisms or social group antagonisms, you can take his ideas and look at other domains, right? Which is gendered and racial and ethnicity, right? So then this is how you summarize and this is how you begin to integrate, right? But in order to do this, you must understand what the argument and what are the points that each author makes. All right. So just to be clear, you're not going to be able to sort of make stuff up. All right. So you have to have a really good understanding of the readings. Okay. Now, this is the second point. So the second method of integrating your ideas with those of your sources is to quote or paraphrase a source directly. You may utilize two ways. First, you can directly quote a source, paraphrasing a writer's words in phrasing the author's words with your own words, and you do not use the author's words as a source. As a as the focus of your essay, it is to represent and convey your ideas effectively. When you use a writer's words, no matter who you use, it is to frame and substantiate your claims and arguments about your argument. You want to center your argument in points that you want to make by using quotes and paraphrasing effectively to undergird the argument you are forwarding in your essay. And I did sort of highlight this point when I was referring to William the William Robinson example that I give in the written example, if that makes sense. Okay. And if you sort of do either of these two methods and you're effective, then you would get like the full 100% or 25 full points or percentage points. Okay. And then the next part, or the second 25, is that you're going to identify and state the category of understanding and develops a category of analysis. So this is basically the argumentation that you're going to write. Right. Because I wrote a category of understanding can be considered a level or stage in gaining knowledge or understanding about a particular subject matter. It's an easy way to classify the depth and complexity of a person's understanding. These are the components of how to engage in developing a category of understanding. Right, and this is sort of what I mean by that. So you can base it on remembering. This is the most basic level of understanding where you are able to recall or remember certain types of information. For example, remembering the dates of historical events or a definition of words. And there's nothing wrong with that. Right. It's just in the manner of how you're able to marshal or use the information that you have, or the information that you're able to convey, if that makes sense. Okay. And then the second point is understanding. At this level, you should be able to explain ideas or concepts in your own words. You can classify and categorize concepts using descriptive terms or identifying key features of like a concept or an argument. Oops, sorry about that. Didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Okay, there. Sorry about that. Okay, and then the next point. Applying, you can use the information you learn to new situations. For example, using a theoretical concept to something that had not been originally considered. And this right here is what I sort of mentioned here, right? Because Marx talks about class conflicts, right, or social group conflicts, you can use his same structural argument to talk about other types of social antagonisms, gendered, racial, immigration status, and so on and so forth. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. And then applying, then you have analyzing. You can break down complex information into smaller parts for better understanding. They can distinguish between different parts of an argument and understand and demonstrate how they relate. And this is going back to the Karl Marx example or the William Robinson example. Okay. And then evaluating. At this level, you may begin to make judgments about the value of ideas or material selected. You can justify your decisions based on your analysis and understanding of the material. So then, based on how you understand it, you could either agree or disagree, but you have to be clear as to why you decided on one or the other. Do not go under the assumption that your reader will understand what you are trying to tell them, because that is virtually impossible. You need to tell them what you are specifically thinking, right? And then that thinking um, is reflected in your writing, right? In the word selection, word order, and so on and so forth, right? Okay. And then from evaluating, then you're going to go to creating. This is the highest level of understanding. Here you can create new ideas or information using what you have come to understand. You can design, construct, or develop an original work. And this is where you, based on what you've read and come to understand, and how you, as the writer and scholar, are able to add to the understanding of that issue or topic, right? Which I'm having you do, and I sort of highlighted, I believe, if I remember correctly, in the introduction. Right. So if you notice that a lot of this stuff is interconnected and interrelated, and each handout and assignment support each other, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. And then this is just the act of writing, or sorry, developing your ideas. And then the next part is developing categories of analysis is a crucial step in writing a manuscript, particularly qualitative studies. Here's an example of how to develop categories of analysis. First one is familiarization. Start by thoroughly reading and rereading the material or data. This aids in understanding, gaining an in-depth and contextual understanding of the information. Coding and recording. Identify and record passages or texts and other data items that exemplify similar theoretical or descriptive ideas. All right, so this is key right here: theoretical and descriptive ideas. And this process involves creating code, which are the labels that categorize your points based on themes, ideas, or patterns identified. Generating themes. Organize your codes or data into categories based on how they relate to your category of understanding. These categories will help you identify and construct the major themes in your essay. Okay. And then once you develop general generating themes, you review your themes. Check if your themes work in relationship to your code or your data extractions or quotes or information that you've collected, and the viewing it within the context of the entire manuscript. Some things may need to be combined, refined, separated, or discarded depending on the objective you want to convey to your reader. And this goes back to what I mentioned in, or have you think about in the outcome, right? As well as in the introduction, right? And then defining and naming themes. Identify the essence of what each theme is about. Consider how it fits in the overall narrative you are telling about your argumentation, right? So you want to be able to elucidate the points that you're trying to make, okay? And then writing up. The final step involves tying it together, present a coherent and logical narrative that convincingly informs a reader about the most important aspects of your argument. So then by following these steps, but you're not going to utilize all of them. It just depends on how and what you're going to say and the type of evidence you're going to utilize in your work. Okay, so you have to make those judgments, right? So don't forget about your own input in this process. Okay. And then the next part, or the next point, is 20%. And this is one of the important elements in writing an essay is to properly format the essay. When a reader sees a manuscript, the first thing they note is the aesthetic organization of the text. An improperly formatted paper distracts a reader from concentrating on your ideas. Because of poor formatting of a manuscript, you want a reader to be able to flow through your writing. So then that's sort of following the standard essay format. 12-point font, Times Roman, two names Roman, Times New Roman, 1-inch margins, double spaced or or otherwise specified, and also having a works cited page that's properly formatted. And it could be formatted, as I mentioned prior, with the assignment 2 prompt, ASA, APA, MLA, in Chicago style. Okay, so those are the 4 recognized styles that you could use for this class. Okay, all right. So then, so that's the formatting, and then the other 20% is writing mechanics. Okay, an important element in writing is writing mechanics. Writing mechanics include selecting words and placing them in certain order that makes sense and convey information to your reader that effectively uses punctuation. If you do not feel comfortable with writing mechanics, I recommend that you visit Purdue OWL, which is in the handout for assignment 2, which is an online writing lab operated by Purdue University, or you consult a writing manual, because a good writer has these tools as they write: a dictionary, a thesaurus, and a writing manual. All right. You should get into that habit. All right. Okay. And then a writer seeks new and different ways to structure sentences. Writing is an art form. The tools you use as a writer is the writer's manual, a dictionary, thesaurus, are foundational to writing and reading. Okay. And then the other tools that aid in clarifying your ideas to your reader are the punctuation, periods, commas, semicolons, colons, dashes, double and single quotation marks. So then, and I know this might seem elementary or rudimentary, but I did include the different punctuations and sort of define what they do. Because even at this level, I still get a few papers that tend to forget commas and periods and some of the other punctuations, what makes it very challenging to read an essay. Because you definitely have to be unaware that to write is not the same as to speak, right? So you have to sort of make those distinctions and see how you're able to understand writing and also language. Okay, but they do complement each other. Okay, so make sure that you pay attention to and avoid writing the way that you speak. All right, you have to think more in terms of grammar and all those other mechanics of writing. All right, and then lastly, the 10 points or 10%. Another component of writing is an effective sourcing your sources correctly. These are the four main types, the ASA, APA, MLA, and Chicago style. So again, making sure you go to either Purdue Owl or use a writing manual, right, to be able to format and do proper citation and what have you. Okay, and if you add all this stuff up together, it leads up to 100%. Right. So I hope this makes sense. And I still have one more video, and that's just if you decide to use it, but you're not required to use this format. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and do one more video.